When the master presented the sword, he stunned everyone by revealing that this fearsome blade had never actually been used in combat. He had no remaining choices left for the boy. The main character realized he needed reliable support. Even a single trustworthy friend would make a difference, as long as it was someone he could depend on completely. He approached Elias, gently nudged his shoulder in a gesture of camaraderie, and announced that Elias was now a member of the hero squad. Elias' master had spoken directly with the royal family, and despite Elias lacking any magical abilities, there was an unspoken confidence that things would still turn out fine. The main character felt completely bewildered upon hearing that news. He understood that his master hoped he would form new friendships. Suddenly adding him to the group assigned to defeat the Demon King seemed overwhelming. To him, however, that sword would become his greatest ally, supporting him even though he had no magical abilities and only relied on his remarkable physical strength. Elias found himself surrounded, standing bravely as a group of dragons closed in on him. A voice from behind urgently called out, asking him to watch over their rear. The main character approaches the batter's box, ready to take their turn. Several months had passed since he became a member of the hero team. When the group received information about the demon's whereabouts, they decided to investigate. Suddenly, even more dragons descended upon the gathering, threatening to ruin the celebration. Warrior Thomas and Mage Isabella grew increasingly anxious, nervousness evident in the sweat forming on their brows. Dealing with a single one of those creatures didn't seem like a problem at all. Even a top-ranked team would have a hard time facing an entire group all at once, especially since everyone was already exhausted. Elias notices, who appears to be in a deep state of gloom. Celebrated as the team's hero, felt completely overwhelmed by the chaos surrounding him. Despite their efforts, the group was forced to leave without accomplishing anything. As they made their way out, surprised everyone with an unexpected move. Someone questioned whether Elias was even aware of his responsibilities, leaving the main character feeling utterly bewildered by the comment. Gazes at him with a stern expression. Elias claimed to be on the same team, yet remained unconvinced. The hero stunned everyone by announcing that Elias no longer served any purpose on the team, and declared that he was dismissed effective immediately. Elias stands in shock, hardly able to process what he's hearing. Words tumble from his lips as he tries to ask for clarification. Calmly explains that there are two explanations. The first is that Elias cannot be trusted since he always insists on chasing the mysterious floating lights that, strangely, no one else has ever witnessed. The main character eagerly entered the scene, expressing that he could clearly see the mysterious lights. Although he admitted he had no idea what they were, he was certain they didn't give off any negative feelings. Elias attempted to justify his actions by claiming that their journeys had always been secure as long as they stayed within the glow of the lights. However, dismissed this explanation, attributing their safety merely to chance. Also revealed another reason for his reluctance to let Elias join the group. Elias was unable to handle the demonic sword. Such swords, noted, could be forged either through natural means or by artificial methods. In both situations, only those with the correct qualities could make use of them. Elias happened to possess the necessary mindset and energy. Despite his efforts, he remains unable to access the power within the demon sword. The boy attempts to justify his actions, questioning whether his behavior has ever created problems for the team, and insists that he is capable of handling himself during a fight. Elias remains defiant, insisting that his inability to wield the sword does not change his stance. He had always supported those around him, standing by them whenever they needed help. Interrupts before Elias can finish, making it clear that, in his opinion, Elias has no place on the team. Sometime after, as the group arrives in the city, Elias collapsed onto his mattress, feeling drained and unsure about his future steps. Ever since he lost his parents, he had only his mentor for company, who always encouraged him to seek trustworthy friends. However, after hearing harsh words, Elias realized that was not the friend he was looking for. It was obvious that these people were nothing like the companions his mentor had hoped he would meet. Tears began to form in Elias' eyes. Deep down, he longed to remain part of the group, sharing thrilling journeys and unforgettable quests. The main character found himself questioning whether he ought to embrace the life of an adventurer. The boy made his way toward the Adventurers Guild. Erin, who worked as the receptionist, welcomed Elias warmly, her lips curled into a friendly smile. Elias felt a jolt of surprise when she addressed him by name, unsure how she recognized him. Erin quickly explained that she remembered him because he belonged to the hero team. However, Elias then revealed the surprising news that he had just lost his job. Understood Elias' intentions and acknowledged his effort to remain optimistic, expressing admiration for his willingness to venture out alone. Elias' mood lifted a bit, encouraged by his kindness, especially as she officially registered him at rank F as an adventurer. She then shared news about several beginner-friendly assignments that had just become available. One mission involved exploring a recently found lake situated in a forest roughly an hour away from the Imperial City. As Elias entered the tranquil and picturesque forest, he took in the serene surroundings. Previously, his actions had always been motivated by his role on the hero team and the needs of others, but now he felt ready to pursue his own goals. Without warning, Elias encountered a group of goblins in his path. Erin had given the boy a heads-up about the dangers of low-level monsters, yet the boy had no intention of engaging in any battles. A sudden sound draws his focus, and he notices a luminous orb hovering in the air. Elias makes up his mind to follow the glowing light, convinced it will guide him to a place where he can find safety. After strolling for a while, he comes across a shimmering lake. Approaching the water's edge, the main character contemplates the best place to begin his adventure around this impressive lake. Without warning, the sound of hurried footsteps fills the air nearby. He notices an object rapidly approaching him. Elias grew curious about the commotion, questioning in his mind what could cause someone to run so frantically as if startled by a spider. Without warning, an enormous beast suddenly emerges and begins to pursue a young girl with relentless speed. Fear grips the girl as she flees desperately, the scene fraught with tension. Observing the chaos, Elias soon notices that the fleeing girl is actually an elf, hunted by a terrifying creature. As he examines the monster more closely, he recognizes it as a water dragon. The main character wonders silently why such a formidable creature would be present in this area, but the urgency of the moment leaves no room for further reflection. Elias moves forward, positioning himself between the elf and the dragon, and makes it clear through his actions that he intends to support her. The dragon surged forward, aiming its powerful body directly at him. He quickly moved out of the way, realizing that the creature's speed was mostly for show, and it wasn't nearly as quick as it appeared. He rushed toward the monster, raising his sword high, and aimed a powerful strike at its head. Unexpectedly, his strike leaves only a faint mark on the surface. The dragon lunged forward, reaching out in an attempt to seize him. Elias realized that the situation was far from ideal. Just as Elias fears discovery, glowing magical circles appear around the beast. He retreats a step as the elf summons wind magic, aiming to defeat the struggling dragon. Realizing the creature is too powerful to face alone, Elias considers that working together might give them a chance. He calls out to the elf, suggesting they join forces and asking her to stay back. She signals her agreement, assuring him that he can rely on her support. At that moment, the dragon plunges into the lake once more. Elias worries, knowing the fight will be far more difficult now that the monster is hidden underwater. It's nearly impossible to plan an attack without seeing the target. The elf declares she will force the dragon back to the surface. She began to weave powerful magic, whispering old, mysterious words as she worked. Elias watched in awe, astonished by her abilities. Together, they launched repeated attacks at the water, hoping to drive the dragon upward. As the creature finally emerged, lifting its head above the surface, they knew that was their chance to act. Elias springs forward, preparing to deliver the final blow to the creature. But at the last possible moment, he is halted before making contact. The dragon launched a wild assault in Elias' direction. Elias managed to avoid the attack by the slimmest margin, but the effort sent him crashing forcefully to the ground. The elf looks at him with concern, checking to see if he is all right. The dragon's assault toppled several trees, making Elias suddenly aware that a direct hit would have left him in serious danger. The elf warns that the roar is truly dangerous, prompting the main character to promise he will avoid getting too close. The girl offers her assistance by preparing a protective magic shield for him. The boy dashes in the direction of the dragon, hoping that repeatedly striking one area might allow him to break through its tough hide. Working together, the boy and the elf believe their teamwork gives them a real chance at victory. Ilias gathered his courage and sprang into the air, soaring upward. He landed squarely atop the dragon's massive head. Without hesitation, he plunged downward, driving his blade toward the creature. A surge of excitement filled Ilias as he believed that just one more strike could defeat the beast. However, when he attempted to retrieve his sword, he found it firmly lodged in the dragon's flesh, refusing to budge. The dragon whipped its massive head from side to side, flinging the main character through the air. He suddenly understands that he is facing serious consequences. Without warning, the dragon unleashed a fresh assault directed at him. Ilias attempted to avoid the strike, yet it skimmed him as it passed. Alarm spread across the elf's face at the sight of the boy's pain. As Ilias collapsed onto the ground, she hurried to his side, her concern evident as she checked for injuries. The dragon's assault had struck his right arm, wounding him. The main character questioned whether continuing the fight was possible with only one arm remaining. Even when uninjured, he had struggled in this battle, but now his thoughts were consumed with concern for the elf. He finds himself uncertain about his next move. Without warning, Ilias becomes aware of someone speaking nearby. He wondered aloud if the elf had spoken, but she only gazed back at him with a puzzled expression. Once more the voice reaches his ears, pleading desperately for assistance. The boy glanced in every direction, searching for the source of the voice calling out to him. Ilias dragged himself across the dirt toward the sword resting nearby. His fingers wrapped around the hilt as a surge of resolve filled him, yet uncertainty gnawed at his thoughts. Survival seemed unlikely, but the feeble plea for help tugged at his conscience, leaving him torn about his next move. That faint voice urged him to unleash his hidden ability. In an instant, water began swirling around the sinister blade. Alarm shot through Ilias as confusion took hold, unsure how to respond to this sudden phenomenon. The voice encourages him to rely on his instincts and stay calm. Feeling empowered by this guidance, he feels prepared to confront the water dragon. The main character quickly understands that there isn't a moment to waste on hesitation. He lifted the sword, preparing to release its magical power. The boy launched a relentless assault on the dragon, landing blow after blow without hesitation. Ilias stood resolute, his sword radiating with a vibrant energy. He lunged forward, striking the enormous creature with unwavering force, while the elf watched in utter disbelief. With the final strike delivered, Ilias touched down on solid ground once more. The girl, astonished, exclaimed her amazement at the incredible feat, marveling at how he had managed to defeat the water dragon. Confusion settled over Ilias as he tried to comprehend how he had been able to control the demonic blade. Suddenly, a voice announced that it was time to reveal themselves. In a flash, a tiny mermaid-shaped figure appeared before them. This spirit's sudden arrival led Ilias to suspect it might have been the source of his newfound power. The spirit drifted closer, seeking to learn who they were. Ilias responded by sharing his name, while the elf identified herself as Emma. The tiny being glowed with excitement as she greeted the group and revealed her name to be Undine. Ilias could hardly believe his eyes, as he had always thought Undine existed only in myths. Drifting nearer, the small girl wondered aloud if Ilias was interested in forming a contract with her. The mention of a contract sent Ilias into a state of panic. He couldn't understand why such a powerful spirit would choose him. Undine's expression showed a trace of pain as she questioned whether Ilias was uninterested, but he immediately insisted that wasn't the case. Without delay, she instructed him to hold out his hand. The spirit then drew a striking symbol onto his palm, declaring that their contract was now formalized. Ilias had accepted the agreement impulsively, granting him the ability to summon Undine's power whenever he wished, though he still didn't fully understand what that entailed. Turning his attention to Emma, Ilias checked if she was all right, and in a hushed voice, she revealed that she had finally found him. She reaches out and takes hold of his hand. As she moved in nearer, Emma urgently called out to Ilias, insisting that he accompany her to the elf kingdom. Ilias, baffled by her abrupt request, looked at her in confusion. Undeterred, Emma grasped his hand firmly, encouraging him to follow her to the realm of elves. Ilias was taken aback, unable to understand her reasons for wanting him to go there. She then explained that her mission was to locate a human capable of seeing spirits. She stopped for a moment and shifted her gaze toward him. She inquires about the hue of the spirits that surround her. The main character notices that his vision is filled only with the color blue, leading him to question whether the shapes he sees might actually be spirits. Ilias wondered aloud about the glowing orbs, questioning whether they were all spirits, which surprised Emma since she assumed he already knew. The elf clarified that very few humans possess the ability to see spirits. Understanding dawned on Ilias as he realized why the shining orbs remained invisible to everyone else. He explains to her that, despite his ability to see spirits, he doubts how much help he can truly offer her. He possessed no magical abilities whatsoever, and the so-called magical sword in his hand was nothing more than an ordinary blade without assistance. If he hadn't received support, defeating the water dragon would have been impossible for him. Emma agreed with a thoughtful nod, acknowledging the truth that most people able to see spirits often receive some sort of blessing. However, she found it remarkable that Ilias had succeeded in forming a contract with a legendary spirit, considering how rare and extraordinary that was. She then wondered aloud if Ilias had any interest in joining her. Ilias finds himself uncertain about his next move. He eventually agrees to accompany the elf. Before anything else, he plans to spend some time exploring the city. Ilias set out to acquire some new equipment before making his way to the guild. Once there, he proudly recounted his victory over a water dragon and claimed the reward for his accomplishment. After some time, Ilias spots Emma and wonders aloud if she had been waiting long for him. Emma laughs off his concern, telling him that there's no need for such politeness, especially since they're about to set off on an exciting journey together. The main character feels a surge of excitement at the thought of joining forces for this upcoming adventure. Ilias proposed that the group look for an inn where they could rest for the night. A voice suddenly echoed from behind them. The hero appeared with his crew, catching the main character off guard. Startled by their sudden arrival, the main character reacted by leaping in surprise. Mentions that he has never met anyone from the elf tribe before, adding that Emma is very beautiful. Emma responds with gratitude for his compliment, proceeds to tell her his name. He inquires if she and Ilias are on their way somewhere together. Emma confirms this with a nod and wonders about his reason for asking. Wondered aloud whether Emma was uninterested in becoming part of his team. He and his group were actively searching for someone with exceptional skills to join them. Being around's group seemed far preferable to spending time with someone weak, and joining his team would be a big step up for her. Ilias, meanwhile, felt a wave of frustration rise within him at its attempt to steal away his companion. However, the elf turned to the hero, offering a polite greeting and an apology. She explained that she had no plans to team up with the heroes at the moment. Instead, she only wanted to share adventures with Ilias. Unable to hide his disbelief, questioned her choice and wondered aloud if she was being serious. In response, Emma expressed her gratitude to the hero for the warning and affirmed her belief that Ilias possessed far more strength than he realized. Took a step backward, warning the girl that she would regret her actions in the future, insisting he was being completely serious. The main character expressed gratitude to the elf while they moved along, but Emma brushed off the thanks and told him to relax. After a brief pause, she fell silent before turning her attention to Ilias, inquiring about his past interactions with the hero's group. It turned out that Ilias had joined forces due to his master's relationship with the royal family. Ilias, giving off a quiet and reserved energy, approached and let him know that he would be joining their group from that moment forward. Just then, the hero encouraged him to overcome his shyness and urged him to join in. He extended his hand invitingly, a gesture often seen in such moments. Following this, Thomas and Isabella became part of the group. On another day, he boasted about his sword, claiming it held magical powers. The whole group reacted with excitement and amazement at the revelation that the sword was enchanted. Ilias revealed a shocking truth. He was unable to use it at all since he had no magic power whatsoever. The news hit everyone with surprise. Whenever he pauses to reflect on the situation, he comes to the understanding that he stands alone as the group's outcast, noticing that everyone else gained a level following the recent battle. As the group ventured deeper into the dungeon and the challenges became more intense, he struggled to wield his magical sword effectively. Frustration grew toward Elias, upset that he was unable to wield his magical sword. The situation felt like a major letdown. At that point, reached his limit, and decided to remove Elias from the team with a cold finality. The main character admitted that his own shortcomings had held the group back, feeling it was unreasonable for someone wielding a magical sword to be unable to use its power. Upon hearing this, Emma's expression fell, and Elias noticed the change, questioning her concern. The girl moved nearer, her curiosity evident as she wondered aloud what was bothering him and questioned whether he didn't think the whole situation was incredibly strange. She promised to prove that Elias was truly powerful. The main character pointed out that defeating the water dragon had only been possible because of Undine's power, but the elf remained firm, claiming that Elias had always possessed great strength from the very beginning. In addition to his impressive awareness, he could quickly understand what was happening, even against formidable opponents. His mind allowed him to picture the exact positions of everyone during a fight, which was truly remarkable. Elias wondered aloud if such an ability was uncommon. Elias remained focused on safeguarding himself, a priority that never left his mind. Emma observed how, even in moments of peril, Elias' concern for his crew never faded. She realized that only those with true strength could continue to stand and fight through such challenges. After witnessing the way the hero's teammates behaved toward him, she finally understands the reasons behind his actions. This realization strengthens her resolve to stick to her own position. Emma smiled at Elias, acknowledging that he was always willing to fight for his friends, which in her eyes was the mark of true strength. She encouraged him to have genuine faith in himself. Elias, feeling a bit anxious, expressed his gratitude, but Emma waved it off, insisting there was no need for thanks, just good vibes. With newfound determination, Elias resolved to trust in his own abilities a little more. Together, the two continued their journey. As they made their way forward, a group of enemies suddenly blocked their path. Calm and composed, Elias drew his sword and confronted the threat without hesitation. Afterward, the main character turned to Emma, inquiring how much farther they had to travel before reaching the Elf Kingdom. Emma. He found it puzzling that she was unable to notice the spirit's presence. The spirit then explained that after their contract was finalized, he became the only person capable of seeing her. The situation struck him as unbelievable. Elias wondered aloud if Undine could allow Emma to see her for a while, and the spirit agreed, ready to make it happen. As Emma and Undine began their conversation, Elias started to question how a person without magical abilities could perceive spirits at all, completely astonished by the possibility. Undine explained to Elias that she believed it had something to do with a bargain he'd made involving his enchanted sword. She suggested that perhaps this sword had the ability to channel spiritual energy, enabling Elias to see spirits, an idea that left him even more amazed. There appeared to be a unique connection between Elias and the sword, as if it resonated at the same frequency as him, making him the only person capable of wielding it safely. As soon as they reached their destination, a surge of magic began to unfold around them. A bright burst of light washes over Elias' face, causing him to squeeze his eyes shut. As he slowly blinks them open again, he found himself completely disoriented, questioning his whereabouts. The situation felt surreal, almost like a dream. In an instant, they had appeared in the heart of the Elf Kingdom, which seemed impossible. Emma began ascending a staircase, mentioning that her house was just nearby. Elias grew curious about what her home might be like, and just then someone called out to Emma. Suddenly, a crowd gathered around the elf girl, showering her with greetings, while Elias stood awkwardly on the sidelines, feeling utterly confused. Emma then darted around a bend and called out for Elias to follow her. She proudly displays the enormous castle, claiming it as her own home. Upon entering, Emma cautioned the boy to be careful with his footing, mentioning that it was very easy to lose one's way inside. The boys stared around in awe, unable to believe they were really standing inside a castle. Meanwhile, Emma called out excitedly to her mother, announcing her return. Merle, who was Emma's mother, greeted her warmly at the door. Emma quickly apologized for having taken so long. Merle glanced at the boy beside her daughter and inquired if he was the person Emma had been looking for. Emma confirmed with a nod. Another voice from nearby remarked that Emma had at last discovered the person she'd been seeking. Emma shifted her gaze toward her father. The king who ruled the continent and Emma's father, greeted Elias with a formal and regal reception. The main character is stunned upon discovering that Emma is an actual princess. Meanwhile, Elias reacts with panic, demanding confirmation from Emma about her royal status. The girl moved a bit nearer, expressing her dislike for the way he addressed her. She made it clear that she didn't appreciate being called that name and wanted to avoid any special treatment. In Elias' mind, her official status didn't matter. To him, she remained his friend and trusted companion. He thought it would be really strange if his behavior toward her suddenly changed. Emma's mother greeted them with a cheerful smile, her curiosity evident as she wondered aloud about the nature of their relationship. Before she could speculate further, Emma hurriedly insisted that her mother shouldn't make any strange assumptions. Walked up to Elias and advised him to let the matter go, hinting that any further discussion might cause the boy to feel embarrassed. He leaned closer to Elias and quietly inquired about the emotions Elias held for his daughter. Emma approached her parents and presented Elias to them, explaining that his sword possessed magical powers. Marvels at how well he connects with the enchanted sword. Emma brimmed with excitement, eager to share more than just that. But before she could reveal anything further, another person entered the room and offered her a friendly greeting. Emma and her parents each bent at the waist, offering a respectful greeting to Lady Titania. As the elf drew near, Elias found himself curious about who might outshine Emma's impressive family. The girl then presented Lady Titania to Elias, describing her as one of the most legendary figures among the elves. Titania fixed her gaze on Elias and announced that he was the very person they had been looking for. A comforting warmth blossomed in Elias' chest at her words. Titania observed that, just as she suspected, Elias had entered into a pact with a genie. Bewildered, Elias wondered aloud how she could possibly know that, and Titania explained that their experiences made them almost like twins. She wondered aloud if Elias experienced that strange sensation in his chest that often occurred when spirit companions encountered each other. Without warning, Undine materialized and inquired about Titania's whereabouts. Elias questioned whether the spirit could simply appear before anyone, and Undine confirmed it without hesitation. As Undine manifested, Titania welcomed her warmly, remarking on how long it had been since they last met. Curious, Elias asked Titania if she was acquainted with Undine. Titania confirmed, explaining that she had once journeyed alongside someone who had formed a pact with the spirit many years before. Elias' excitement grew as he imagined that the person Titania mentioned must have been a lot like himself. Curious, he wanted to know where that person was now. Titania answered, revealing that her old friend had left the world centuries ago. This made Elias wonder about Titania's true age, but Titania only gave a sly smile and teased that it was her own secret to keep. Meanwhile, Emma could barely contain her joy as she announced to Titania that she had finished her assignment. Emma's task had been to find someone who had a close connection with the spirits. At that moment, Elias was struck by the realization that Emma was only with him because of her mission. He began to think that he must have misunderstood things. Emma observed that Elias' gaze was fixed on the ground, his posture suggesting he felt downcast. She admitted that while her mission brought her here, she also had personal motives for staying. Emma, her voice barely above a whisper, revealed her longing for companionship. As a member of the royal family, she had never experienced genuine friendship before, so sharing adventures with him brought her immense joy. She worried that he might doubt her intentions, yet her feelings went beyond simply fulfilling the mission. She truly finds happiness in the time they spend exploring side by side. The main character expresses his trust in her, causing Emma's face to brighten with joy. As Emma makes an attempt to express her gratitude, Elias gently dismisses the need for thanks. Emma feels ecstatic at his reaction. Titania observes that all confusion seems to be resolved, and she prepares to reveal her true purpose for seeking out Elias. She hints that there is a task only Elias is capable of accomplishing. The boy, filled with anticipation, recalls his master's lesson about always lending a hand and eagerly inquires about what Titania requires. Titania fell silent for a moment. With a grave expression, she expresses her hope that Elias will be the one to save the world. This statement leaves the boy completely stunned. During that time, powerful spirits across the land had been imprisoned by demons. Elias, puzzled, recalls how Undine aided him during the battle against the water dragon, yet the spirit explains that she too had been sealed away. The water dragon, she reveals, was actually the key component to her imprisonment. Because they managed to separate the dragon from the sealing location, she was able to lend Elias her strength for a short while. Nevertheless, she admits she could not break free from the seal by herself. The demons harbored a deep grudge against both spirits and angels, fully aware that it would only be a matter of years before they began taking bold actions. As soon as that event occurs, the initial victims will be the powerful spirits currently imprisoned. Elias explains that rescuing these spirits must be their priority before everything starts to unravel. Titania explained that only a person selected and cherished by the spirits was able to assist, much like how only the spirits themselves could defeat certain demons. The main character believes that rescuing the spirits might eventually lead to the world's salvation. That is the impression he has gathered so far. Taking on the responsibility of saving the world felt overwhelming to Elias, leaving him uncertain about whether he was truly up to the challenge. Emma observed the boy and could tell he was trembling slightly. Titania, maintaining her composure, reassured him that no one expected him to know everything at this moment. She then revealed that another sealed spirit was close by. Despite their efforts, the group had failed to rescue him. Now their hope rested on Elias to take on the challenge. The boy reflected on the enormous task of saving the world, finding it hard to even imagine accomplishing such a feat. Yet with newfound resolve, he inquired about the spirit's location. Before him stood people who desperately needed assistance. Elias prepared himself to rescue the others. After some time had passed, the group found themselves surrounded by rocky terrain. Emma explained that deep within the cave lay a sanctuary where the spirit remained trapped. Monsters hide within the area, forcing them to move with caution. Elias' unusual behavior draws Emma's concern, and she checks on his well-being. The boy reflects on whether saving the world is even possible, his mind filled with doubts. He wonders if failure on his part could be the reason everything falls apart, imagining the world burning because of his mistakes. Emma moved in, narrowing the distance between them, and wondered aloud what kept him from taking a break from his relentless mission to save the world. At this moment, he stood on the verge of rescuing the spirit imprisoned within the temple walls. Elias expressed her concern, explaining that she and the rest of their group were anxious about what might happen. Additionally, Undine's companion remained confined there, and abandoning the situation was not an option for him. The princess agreed, pointing out that his motives were rooted in loyalty to his friends rather than any desire to become a hero. He wondered if someone's whole future could really rest on his shoulders. The responsibility felt overwhelming for the boy, almost too much for him to handle. Perhaps, for the time being, it would be wiser to set aside thoughts of saving the world and concentrate instead on helping Undine's friend. Emma smiled, believing that suited him much better. Emma nodded in agreement and finished the task. He insisted that taking immediate action was essential. Elias, always present when it comes to what he values, paused before the entrance of the cave and signaled for the others to continue ahead. In a concealed location, a hidden observer kept a close eye on the group. Emma skillfully defeats several monsters in quick succession. Observing her actions, Elias realizes that the girl possesses impressive abilities. The environment around them feels unusually strange, as trees and plants flourish abundantly throughout the cave despite its underground setting. At this stage, the group had ventured far into the cave's depths, yet the temple and the spirit seal remained elusive. Someone in the crowd suddenly called out to Elias. Their goal waits just beyond the gate, as they move past it. Elias observes a multitude of spirits, each appearing as a radiant, floating orb. Being in a place inhabited by a powerful spirit made such occurrences unsurprising. Just then, Elias noticed something unusual. He gazes toward a particular area, questioning in his mind whether what he sees is actually a statue. Emma directed Elias' attention to something interesting, gesturing for him to take a look. The sanctuary stood nearby, its presence marked by a glimmering light. Without warning, the gate closed with a loud bang behind them. Elias urgently shouts a warning, trying to alert Emma to the danger ahead. Without warning, an unknown force lunged at the pair, but they swiftly moved aside just in time. Towering before them stood a gigantic stone golem. As Elias stared at the creature, he realized he had suspected all along that the statue was more than it appeared. The main character requested Emma's assistance with her magic, and also sought Undine's power to support him. The boy tightened his hold on the sword, activating the seal marked on his hand to reach out and form a connection with Undine. Ilias rushed toward the golem, determination in his eyes. The towering monster swung a heavy fist in his direction, but Ilias skillfully avoided the blow. With a powerful leap, he targeted the creature's wrist and managed to tear off its stone hand. Filled with excitement, the boy rejoiced over his successful strike. However, just as he is about to act, the enemy's hand began to grow back before their eyes. Both of them were left in a state of shock. Emma launched herself at the towering golem, unleashing a rapid barrage of slicing wind blasts in an effort to halt its advance. The creature collapses onto the ground. Ilias questions, internally, whether his actions were effective. Despite the MC's efforts, the monster continued to heal itself, rendering all attacks useless. Even the enchanted blade failed to make a difference, leaving the MC feeling helpless and unsure of what to do next. The creature fixed its sharp, gleaming eyes on the group, a cold and merciless gaze betraying its hostile intent. Without warning, the creature released a surge of magical energy. They began to strike at their opponents, using what appeared to be roots from a plant. Ilias committed himself fully to the fight, cutting down every root that lunged toward him. Emma's attempts to protect herself falter, making it clear she cannot endure much longer. Without warning, the main character suddenly heard Undine's voice encouraging him to have faith in his own abilities, and he immediately felt convinced. At that moment, his sword began to shine brilliantly, as if it had struck a fortune. The boy experiences a powerful energy rushing through him, far more intense than anything he had felt previously. He lunges toward the advancing roots, threatening both himself and Emma, prepared to confront them head-on. At the same time, Emma was skillfully using her magical abilities. She flings the golem effortlessly, sending it soaring through the air as if it weighed nothing more than a scrap of paper. The creature slams hard against the wall. Ilias seized the opportunity as his opponent crashed forcefully onto the ground. Ilias lunged forward and ripped a piece from the creature. As the head tumbled across the floor, nothing changes, leaving him uncertain if their efforts have finally succeeded. Suddenly, an unusual sensation washes over him. He appeared completely exhausted, as if he had just finished a long race, and now his body refused to respond, leaving him motionless. Emma hurried over, her excitement clear as she announced his accomplishment and eagerly inquired about the situation. Just as they thought they had a moment to rest, the golem's head grew back, forcing Ilias to leap away. The creature struck him across the face with lightning speed, launching him through the air before he had a chance to react. The trail he leaves resembles the aftermath of a wild cartoon blast, while Emma calls out his name, her voice filled with worry. The elf hurried over to check on him, concern clear in her actions. Ilias let out a frustrated groan, realizing that even the golem's head was capable of regenerating, which left the group feeling completely trapped. Without warning, blood spills from his mouth as he begins to cough violently. The character felt more exhausted and defeated than a digital hero, clinging to their final chance. Emma realizes that, at this pace, Ilias will not be able to continue much longer. The boy's body has reached its breaking point, yet he refuses to give up, determined to keep going despite knowing he can't push himself any further. Ilias reached out to Undine, requesting her strength once again. The spirit cautioned him, explaining that while she could grant his wish, his body might not survive the strain. He committed himself fully, convinced that this was something he understood and needed to face. The thought of not fighting meant certain doom for Emma, and he refused to disappoint Undine or the other spirits. Determined not to let failure claim him now, he hurled a powerful assault straight at this chest. Ilias notices an unusual detail lurking in the background. Within the opening he had carved into the monster's chest. The golem swung at Ilias, but he moved swiftly out of the way with impressive agility. As soon as he touched down, his mind began working out his upcoming strategy. He shouted a command to Emma, urging her to unleash a sharp gust of wind at the golem's chest. Without hesitation, Emma responded, skillfully weaving her magic and sending a powerful blast exactly where it was needed. Elias brings the camera closer to focus on the creature. The creature surged forward with a speed that outpaced the latest online craze. Within its chest, a mysterious, luminous object caught his attention. The boy's resolve to shield the spirits remained unwavering. Elias surpasses every boundary he once knew. By harnessing the sword's mystical energy, they unleashed a tremendous blast that shook the surroundings. Elias delivered a precise blow, fully aware of his successful strike. In an instant, the glowing object within the golem's chest broke apart. With its core destroyed, the creature fell to the floor and crumbled into pieces, completely defeated. Emma celebrated enthusiastically, expressing her excitement that they had finally managed to bring it down. She suspects that the radiant sphere is likely what allowed it to heal itself. Just then, her attention is drawn to a sudden movement. Elias sprawled across the ground, his appearance battered and exhausted. The girl realizes that he is bleeding heavily. Although he tries to comfort her by insisting he will be fine, the intense pain nearly overwhelms him, leaving him on the verge of losing consciousness. Without warning, Elias becomes aware of someone's voice questioning whether he was the person responsible for rescuing her. He leaped into the air, triggering a brilliant flash that erupted from the sanctuary in a stunning display. Suddenly, a tiny spirit emerged, capturing Emma and Elias' complete astonishment. The spirit identified herself as Dryas and expressed her gratitude to Elias for releasing her from the seal. She notices his injuries and wonders if he truly got them while rescuing her. Dryas offers to heal Elias as an expression of gratitude. Elias appears puzzled, prompting Dryas to clarify that they must establish a contract beforehand. The spirit reached out and took hold of his hand, finalizing their agreement. She then cast her enchantment over him, and in a matter of moments his injuries vanished, leaving him completely restored. Dryas confidently assured the group of her expertise in healing and magical support, promising to come whenever Elias called for help. Elias expressed his gratitude, noticing his spirits lift a little. They soon realized that, similar to how the water dragon had served as Undine's seal, the golem had acted as Dryas's. This revelation made them all more alert, knowing they had to remain cautious. Elias found himself puzzled by the recent sealing of powerful spirits. Dryas and Undine glanced at each other, clearly eager to share what they knew. Undine questioned whether Elias was aware of the Demon King's return, and he signaled that he was. In fact, the hero among his companions had dedicated himself to preventing the Demon King's revival, which had led to his birth. At that moment, Dryas understood that the seal created 2 centuries earlier had finally been undone. It was not a matter of the Demon King being born for the first time. He was returning. Emma and Elias were left reeling from the revelation. The boy then inquired whether a Demon King had existed 2 centuries ago, prompting Undine to confirm with a nod. She explained that the hero from that era had perished in his battle against the Demon King. However, the hero's companion, a spirit mage, had somehow succeeded in sealing the Demon King away. This victory came at a steep cost, as the spirit mage lost his life during the process, and all the powerful spirits were sealed as well. Elias struggled to comprehend the enormity of it all. The hero had fallen, the spirit mage had imprisoned the demon, and now that very Demon King was on the verge of resurrection. The high-ranking spirits, considered even more dangerous. 2 horned beings approached Elias and Emma with confident strides, announcing that the spirits would be destroyed in preparation for the Demon King's grand return. Both of them froze in shock, as they suddenly found themselves face to face with the 2 demons. Elias and Emma refused to back down, as the 2 demons confronted them. The main character fixed a fierce stare on the demons, clearly prepared for a fight. One of the demons stepped forward and revealed his name to be Lares. Glancing at the scene, Lares remarked that the situation was rather troublesome. He pointed out that Elias had acted carelessly by unsealing a spirit on his own. He questions what aspects of the situation are worth mentioning in his report. Elias warned Emma to stay behind, emphasizing the seriousness of the demon they faced. Without warning, Lares sprang toward Elias, launching a swift attack. The unexpected blow launched the main character through the air. Elias crashes forcefully into the wall, a sharp cry of pain escaping him from the impact. Emma panicked, her voice rising as she called out to him, while Elias remained completely unaware of Laurie's sudden approach. He finds himself struggling for air, unable to recover. Laurie's looked at him with disappointment, expressing how pathetic she found the situation. Their blades collided fiercely as Laurie's taunted Elias, questioning whether that was truly the extent of his abilities, even with the spirits lending him power. Laurie's remarked that Elias seemed rather unimpressive. At that moment, the main character recognized Laurie's exceptional strength, realizing he could overpower Elias effortlessly with a single hand. Elias acknowledges that there is a significant gap between their abilities. The demon's gaze shifted, landing on the sword clutched tightly in Elias' grasp. He hurled the main character down to the ground. Laurie's expressed his confusion about Elias possessing the sword, unable to understand the reason behind it. Anyone allied with the spirits would not survive this battle. Emma let out a terrified scream, her mind racing with concern for Elias. Laurie's extended his power toward the boy, assuring him that he would vanish momentarily. The young man shuts his eyes, preparing himself for what he believes will be his end. Without warning, a figure sprang into Elias' path, raising their sword defensively to shield him. Laurie's moved away, putting some distance between herself and the others. The individual who had just come to Elias' rescue wondered aloud whether he would accept some assistance in the battle. Elias stands frozen in disbelief as he recognizes the person before him. He suddenly recognizes that the figure before him is his master. The man gazes at the main character with a puzzled expression, uncertainty clear in his eyes. He questioned whether the person before him was truly Elias and tried to figure out why Elias was in that place. However, the boy admitted that he was equally confused and had no idea where he was. Laurie's bristled with anger upon seeing the man arrive as well, feeling that the situation was becoming increasingly tangled and difficult. At the same time, the man felt excited, thinking that this moment was incredible for him since he had at last found the demon he had been searching for. A wide grin spread across his face as he let Elias know their conversation would have to wait. He was eager to confront Laurie's and put an end to their dispute. Both of them sprang upward, rushing toward one another with fierce determination, ready to unleash a chaotic assault. Elias' master urgently warned the group to watch out and avoid getting trapped in the midst of the fighting. The force of their collision reverberates throughout the surroundings. The impact reaches Emma and Elias as well. As the master and Laurie's clashed, they leapt swiftly from one stone pillar to another, their movements fierce and relentless. Meanwhile, Elias looked on in awe, captivated by the intensity of their battle. The main character remained completely unaware of the incredible strength his master possessed. Laurie's observes the man's relentless determination and begins to question whether it's time for him to disappear. Elias' master suggests that if Laurie's wishes to bring matters to a swift conclusion. He believed himself capable of managing the situation. Summoning his magic circle, he began to unleash spells at the demon. Laurie's noticed a series of blazing fireballs heading toward him and wondered about the outcome if he avoided everyone. Effortlessly, the demon weaved through all of the man's magical assaults. Before Elias can react, his master has silently appeared at his back. At that instant, Laurie's understands that the spell served merely as a diversion. The stranger raises his sword, aiming to deliver a powerful blow. Meanwhile, Elias questions whether their plan has succeeded. The boy's master slammed his foot against the ground, his expression grave and unwavering. The demon referred to him as an impudent child. Laurie's realizes that, in the end, he'll be the one facing all those bothersome spirit companions himself. The situation was about to become much more intense. Elias felt a surge of fear. Without warning, the second demon suggested leaving rather than finishing the fight. The demon reasoned that if things went wrong and they were defeated, there would be nobody left to inform their leader. Such an outcome would spell complete catastrophe for them. Laurie's pauses for a moment, considering the situation carefully. He spun around and explained that everything completely added up to him. He informed the crew that fortune was on their side this time, warning them that he would not show mercy in the future. Before leaving, Laurie's insists that he will make sure they don't get away unscathed. He uttered an incantation, causing mystical energy to swirl around him. With determination, he leaped into the shimmering portal that had formed at his command. Elias observes as the girl runs after him. He tries to figure out what she's saying under her breath. By carefully watching her mouth, he realizes she's silently pleading for help. This leaves the main character feeling completely baffled. As soon as the rift sealed shut, Elia's master urgently called on him to prepare for battle. Without warning, a horde of skeletal creatures emerged, surrounding the group. It appeared that Lares had called everyone together for a confrontation. The crew realizes that a large number of them are present. Elia's master wondered aloud whether the boy was able to stand, then decided to leave him with half of the skeletons to handle on his own. It was the moment for the boy to demonstrate his newfound skills and reveal just how much stronger he had become. The group launched their assault on the skeletons, while Elias reflected on how his master's intervention had spared him from danger. He would likely have turned into a skeleton himself by this point. He realized that becoming stronger was necessary if he wanted to keep his squad safe. The skeletons rushed toward Elias with menacing intent. He summoned Undine, and the water spirit promptly appeared before him. As he stopped the golem's strike, a sudden weakness washed over him, as if the creature had drained every bit of his strength. However, when he defeated his opponent, the experience turned out to be completely different. Elias prepared himself to face the challenge once more, as the skeletons began to surround him. Elias suddenly notices that the number is overwhelming. As he tries to move forward, he loses his balance and lands face first on the ground. At that moment, a skeleton lunges toward him. Just as the danger closed in, a sudden rush of wind surged forward, shielding him from harm. Emma had used her magical abilities to intervene, her concern evident as she checked on his well-being. Elias expresses his gratitude to her. She calmly urges him to relax. Smiling, she reassures him that she has always believed in his strength and trusted his abilities. Hearing her words, the boy understands that he must have more confidence in himself. He found trust both within his group of friends and deep inside himself. He hopes to picture that moment in his mind and rely on his own abilities to face the challenge. Elias felt a strong desire to stop depending solely on Undine. Determined to bring everything to an end, he called forth the sword's spirit in its more powerful second shape. Above his head, an enormous orb took shape, unleashing powerful blasts that scattered the surrounding skeletons. Emma, astonished by the spectacle, thought the attack resembled a giant cannon made of water. None of the skeletons had any hope of surviving in the face of that. Undine felt a sense of pride as she observed Elias mastering her abilities, and Elias acknowledged her help, attributing his progress to her guidance. She glanced in the boy's direction. According to his master, he is making good progress. After some time had passed, the group managed to defeat every last skeleton. Dryas tended to Emma's thighs, carefully restoring them. Elias inquired about the elf's well-being, concerned that she might be injured, but she assured him she was unharmed. Expressing her gratitude, she offered thanks to both Elias and Dryas for their help. The main character found himself surprised by the sudden appearance of demons, and he also felt unsettled by the strange way the girl had whispered to him. Elias wondered aloud about his master's presence in that place, observing that the man appeared to be familiar with the demons. The boy's master playfully remarked that worrying about the specifics was unnecessary, since what truly mattered was that they had made it through alive. He insisted that they should leave the area right away. Turning to Emma, the man introduced himself as Leonardo, mentioning that Elias appeared to be fitting in well with his new group. Emma welcomed him warmly and expressed that meeting him was a delight. Leonardo wondered aloud whether she belonged to the group of heroes, then looked around curiously, trying to figure out where her teammates might be and if she was working on her own. Elias began to recount the true events that had taken place. Once the entire story was revealed, Leonardo's anger flared when he learned that Elias had been removed from the team. A lot had changed for the boy since that time, and now he found himself spending time with Emma. Leonardo's expression showed clear irritation, and Emma quickly picked up on the uneasy atmosphere. Suddenly, Elias faced his master, expressing that he had a question on his mind. He wanted to find out who first possessed the magical sword. He often wondered about the reason Leonardo carried that weapon when he was unable to wield it. He believed that learning more about the sword might assist him in dealing with the spirits. Leonardo, his expression grave, explains that he is unable to share that information with Elias. Without offering further explanation, he turns and walks away, leaving the main character puzzled about his cryptic words and curious about when the truth will finally come out. Leonardo responds by saying that everything hinges on the boy's actions. Leonardo suggested that Elias return to the elf kingdom. The boy seethed with frustration, but his master dismissed the outburst and insisted he complete the task immediately. Elias was taken aback as he realized the situation was more serious than he had thought. Leonardo then requested a private conversation with Emma, hinting that he had something very important to share. The idea made Elias visibly anxious, his nerves betraying his concern. Once Leonardo mentioned wanting to speak alone with Emma, the two of them remained together in the quiet forest while Elias made his way back to the elf kingdom, leaving them by themselves. Emma, however, had no idea what Master Leonardo intended to discuss. When Leonardo called her over, she responded with curiosity, wondering what he wanted. Without hesitation, he asked Emma for her thoughts about Elias. Emma admitted that she hadn't known Elias for very long, noting his movement behind her as he was the first to treat her like a friend instead of royalty, which made her eager to embark on more adventures by his side. Leonardo's expression turns gloomy, and an uncomfortable silence settles over the room. A heavy atmosphere settled in all at once. Leonardo fixes his gaze on Emma, his eyes filled with intensity. The girl trembles as beads of sweat form on her skin. She admits that her acquaintance with Elias is recent, yet she feels compelled to express her thoughts. In her eyes, Elias has already proven to be a steadfast friend, someone she can count on both now and in the future. Observing the moment, Leonardo rises to his feet, signaling his understanding of her feelings. He moves nearer to her. The man lowers himself until his forehead touches the floor in a deep gesture of respect. Emma stood there, clearly bewildered, as she tried to understand his actions. Instead of offering an explanation, he simply apologized to her. The guy explained that his intention was only to find out if she truly thought of Elias as just a friend, and he never meant to scare her. For him, Elias mattered more than almost anyone. Emma understood, pointing out that Elias was clearly like family to him, almost like his own child. Anyone could notice their close bond simply by observing how they acted together. Leonardo chuckled and warned Emma to keep that information a secret from Elias. Feeling a bit awkward, she couldn't help but notice how much Leonardo acted like a dad. After settling into his seat once more, Leonardo checked if she was comfortable listening to more about the boy's history. He explained that Elias lost both his parents at the age of 4, and from that moment, Leonardo had watched over him as if he were his own child. Perhaps because of this, Elias had grown up wanting to help everyone around him. That desire led him to take up sword training, driven by a fear of losing someone else he cared about. This, Leonardo thought, was simply part of who Elias was. If Elias ever decided to do something foolish, Leonardo hoped that Emma would intervene. The request took her by surprise, but a bright smile soon spread across her face as she promised to keep Elias out of trouble. Grateful, the man returned her smile and expressed his thanks to the princess, delighted by the friendship blossoming between Emma and Elias. Afterward, everyone made their way back toward the elf kingdom. They found Elias lounging casually on the steps, patiently waiting for their return. Leonardo offered an apology for the delay, and Emma echoed his sentiments. Elias approached Emma, wondering aloud if his master had treated her unkindly. The boy found it extremely odd that the man insisted on speaking with her in private. Leonardo wondered aloud what Emma thought of him, feeling misunderstood. Despite the tension, Emma insisted that Leonardo was not at fault. The distance between them shortened, and Elias' master began to mutter under his breath, urging the boy to offer an apology. Before he could continue speaking, another person suddenly appeared, expressing happiness that they had returned. Titania stands there, having awaited their arrival, flashes a cheerful smile, expressing his delight at seeing Leonardo. The man expressed how grateful he felt to meet the Elf King again, while waved off the formalities and greeted him in a relaxed, friendly manner. Elias inquired whether Leonardo was familiar with and Leonardo responded by explaining that their acquaintance stretched far into the past. Titania had learned that Elias was the one who broke the seal of Dryas, and she wished to express her gratitude to him. Eager to speak with Titania, the young man hurried over to her. Once he finished recounting the events, the elf's expression turned to one of surprise upon learning how near the demons had come to the spirits. Elias recalled that among the demons, there was one called Lares, who was accompanied by a woman. Titania struggles to grasp how quickly the demons have begun their advance, and she feels a wave of immense relief knowing that the boy remains unharmed. Elias credited Leonardo's timely arrival for making everything possible. For a brief moment, the elf falls silent. She wonders aloud whether Elias recalls the conversation they had the previous day. She had requested that he be the one to rescue the world. The woman urgently explains that time is slipping away and insists that the boy must respond to her as soon as possible. Elias admits to himself that fear grips him, and he recognizes that even with his current abilities, victory is out of reach. His recent battle with Lares has shown him just how much he still needs to improve. Despite everything, Elias refuses to back down. The demons had imprisoned the spirits, leaving Undine and Dryas to desperately seek assistance. Elias realizes what he truly desires, to become more powerful so he can safeguard those he cares about. With his sword held out in front of him, the main character declared his unwavering resolve to rescue the world. Emma feels deeply touched by what just happened. Leonardo feels a surge of pride for the child's achievement. Titania acknowledges him with a thankful nod before turning her attention to Emma, eager to hear her opinion on the matter. The boy wonders if this might be overwhelming for Emma. Without hesitation, she eagerly approached him and expressed her enthusiasm about joining him. Elias held a special place in her heart, shining brightly in her eyes. Meanwhile, he found himself blushing, a touch of shyness coloring his cheeks. He mentioned that he was prepared to join her on the adventure. Seeing his enthusiasm, Titania smiled widely and declared that everything was arranged. She added that she had some information for them about the other continent, the one where the dragons like to relax. She learned about a mystical flame connected too. Titania then checked if everyone was prepared to set out, and the pair responded with enthusiastic smiles. When their farewell drew near, they cautioned Elias that the challenges ahead would only grow more difficult and urged him to remain vigilant. Instructed Elias to watch over Emma, and Elias assured him that he would do so. From afar, Leonardo shouted a warning to Elias, insisting that he must not upset Emma. The elves and Leonardo observed as Elias and Emma began their journey. After they had walked for a short distance, Emma mentioned that they would travel using teleportation, just as they had when they first entered the Elf Kingdom. However, she admitted she had no idea where in the Dragon Kingdom they would end up, making this trip unlike any they had taken before. Elias wondered aloud if Undine was familiar with Lord, and the spirit confirmed without hesitation. The main character grew curious about his personality, prompting Undine to reflect that, if she had to describe him in a single word, she would choose solitary. Elias then inquired about where the spirits spent their time when not summoned. Undine explained that they typically lingered in the spirit world. Dryas chimed in, mentioning that high-ranking spirits such as themselves often kept each other company there. Undine recalled that she used to encounter more spirits, but now it was usually just her and Dryas, which left her feeling somewhat lonely. Elias suddenly understands that locating Lord without delay has become urgent. For the spirit's sake, Emma revealed her discovery of the teleportation circle. In a small clearing, a circular pattern had been carefully etched into the earth. Together, Elias and Emma made their way toward it, preparing to travel to the Dragon Kingdom. At the same time, within the heart of the royal capital, rumors began to spread among the crowd about the member who had recently left the hero group. Whispers claimed that he had confronted a water dragon and managed to defeat it completely. He had received an invitation to visit the Elf Kingdom, a rare honor that set him apart. Unlike the group of heroes who struggled with their own challenges, he was flourishing. The so-called heroes kept returning in defeat, their heads hung low, and even the king seemed tired of their failures. The crowd began to question if they could truly admire someone like that. Frustrated, stormed away in anger while Thomas called after him, hoping to stop him. Hurried into a shadowy alley, his face tight with anger and tension. As darkness settled over the capital city, the night began. The hero brought his sword down with force, driving it into the earth beneath him. Fuming with anger at being likened to someone like Elias, he mutters a curse under his breath, convinced that he has the potential to become much more powerful. Without warning, a figure sneaks closer, insists on learning the identity of the intruder. The hooded figure remarked that such words were fitting for someone who aspired to become a hero. Practiced his skills under the cover of darkness, pushing himself while the rest of the world slept. The mysterious figure in the hood extended an offer, promising assistance in achieving his desires. Elias and Emma arrived in the Dragon Kingdom, where the surroundings felt completely unfamiliar to Elias compared to everything he had ever known. He admits that he doesn't know Lord's whereabouts. Because of this, their first step is to collect information. Emma gestures at a mountain range marked on the map, suggesting that the group is likely hiding there. To enter the kingdom, they will have to make their way over those mountains. The pair began weaving their way around the scattered stones. Elias felt a surge of excitement, but reminded the group that they needed to stay sharp and cautious, anticipating possible encounters with adversaries on their journey. Over the following 2 days, every opponent they faced turned out to be surprisingly easy to overcome, allowing them to travel with ease. At least, that was Elias' impression. A sense of unease crept in, as it became clear that this place had been crossed more than once. The boy feels confused, certain that they had been moving forward, yet now it appears as though they are simply returning to where they started. A sudden thought occurs to the boy, and he gestures for Emma to lift him into the air. The girl shook her head in disbelief, refusing the idea, while Elias tried to clarify that he only needed to do something and hadn't meant actually being vomited. Elias requested that Emma hit him, but she immediately refused, insisting she couldn't possibly do such a thing. Undeterred, Elias explained that he had a reason for his strange request, something he needed to confirm. Hesitantly, Emma admitted that if he insisted, she would comply, though she seemed embarrassed by the idea. Summoning her courage, she suddenly struck him squarely in the face. As Elias collapsed onto the floor, Emma looked at him with concern, wondering aloud if she had used too much force, and confessing that she hadn't expected things to turn out that way. At that instant, Elias realizes the truth behind the situation. They unexpectedly found themselves trapped within a deceptive illusion. Emma appeared puzzled, prompting the main character to clarify that illusions could be categorized into 2 different types. There were 2 types of connections, with people and with places. When these connections involved people, they tended to appear in dreams where even a punch wouldn't cause any pain. However, when Emma landed her punch, the pain was unmistakably real. This meant the entire location was nothing more than an illusion. Whenever a place appeared real but was actually fake, there was always a hidden way out. They needed to search for a flaw in the illusion, some kind of escape route, to get themselves free. Emma felt a surge of excitement as he solved the puzzle, knowing that at last, they had a real chance to make their escape. The 2 decided to go their separate ways, each exploring a different area. As they moved along, unexpected monsters suddenly appeared in their paths, despite spending a long time searching. They spotted Nada and chose to hang out with her for a little while. The group was quickly losing energy, struggling to go on. Suddenly, Elias noticed a sudden burst of light. Shocked, he leaped backward. Swirling lights spun around what looked like a strange rift in the air. Without hesitation, Elias seized Emma's hand and pulled her with him, urgently pointing out the spatial distortion and insisting they could escape through it. The group plunged headfirst into the gaping rift. A sudden, intense burst of light engulfs them, as if it had just exploded nearby. Relief and excitement fill Elias, knowing they managed to escape safely. As they gaze forward, they spot an enormous dragon lounging casually right in their path. Both individuals are visibly startled. The dragon fixed its gaze on the group, its eyes intense and unblinking. Elias stood in shock, struggling to grasp the reality that they had just stumbled upon such a magical beast. The creature spoke in a deep, rumbling voice, declaring that anyone who could break free from the illusion must surely be the infamous demons from. The main character, puzzled by the accusation, quickly insisted through their bewilderment that they had no connection to that place. The dragon retorted sharply, making it clear that it had no interest in hearing about their past. The creature inhaled deeply before unleashing a stream of fire, directing the blazing attack straight toward the group. Elias glanced over to see if Emma was all right, and she reassured him with a quick thumbs up. The dragon prepared itself to strike once more. The pair moved with practiced agility, doing their best to protect themselves. Elias shouted at the dragon, urging it to calm down and insisting that it misunderstood their intentions. The dragon let out a thunderous roar, demanding silence from Elias, and charged at him once more. Elias managed to evade the attack, narrowly escaping harm yet again. The situation grew worse, as the dragon showed no interest in listening to their explanations. It seemed clear that a battle was about to begin. The main character's eyes darted across the scene, as an unexpected sight caught their attention. Behind the dragon, an unconscious figure could be seen, appearing to be a child. Elias noticed this and guessed that the dragon's true intention was to shield the kids from harm. As he examined the scene more carefully, he noticed a loose rock teetering dangerously above one of the children's heads, ready to drop at any moment. Apparently, the previous strikes had weakened it. Meanwhile, the dragon's relentless assault remained focused on Elias. Understanding the danger, the boy knew the situation was dire, and there was no way the kids would spot the falling rock before it was too late. He lunges ahead with determination. Elias narrowly dodged the dragon's assault, leaving the beast stunned by his agility. Normally, a simple blow would leave the dragon unscathed. Suddenly, a boulder came crashing down toward the children. Panic swept over both the dragon and the kids as danger loomed. Realizing the urgency, Elias prepared himself to deliver a swift and forceful attack. Summoning every ounce of his strength, Elias struck the rock at the last possible second, shattering it before it could reach the children. The dragon stared in shock, clearly taken aback by Elias' quick action. The attack misses its target and crashes into the wall, sending shards of stone flying through the air. Small pieces of rock fall to the ground like rain. Fear flashes across the kid's face, while the other person, disturbed by the noise, stirs from their sleep. Elias felt a surge of excitement, proud that he had managed to rescue the children at the crucial moment. Emma hurried over to check on their condition, concern etched on her face. The dragon quickly realized that the recent assault had originated from a powerful spirit. Then, the dragon questioned whether they were connected to the demon. The young man took a moment to clarify the situation for everyone. Afterward, he called upon his healing abilities to restore comfort to those around him. The main character expressed gratitude to Dryas, but Dryas simply brushed off the thanks, insisting it was nothing important. Witnessing this, the dragon found it remarkable that Elias had managed to form pacts with both Dryas and Undine simultaneously. Regretful, the dragon then offered an apology for its earlier assault on Elias and Emma. The boy assured everyone that everything was fine and wondered if the dragon had been looking after the children. The small dragons revealed their names to be and apologized for the trouble they caused, and explained that curiosity about their older dragon relative led them to secretly leave the kingdom. Their adventure resulted in them collapsing in the mountains. When the dragon discovered them, he realized it was unsafe to leave them alone with so many monsters nearby, so he remained with them until they regained consciousness. The dragon then introduced himself as, mentioning that he was attacked by demons and was now recovering in this place. He crafted an illusion as a way to deter the villains from coming closer. Wondered aloud if Elias was familiar with the salamander and questioned whether he had come to save her. Elias, taken aback, inquired if had any information about her whereabouts, clarifying that their mission was to rescue Lord Salamander. The dragon explained that she had not been captured, though at the moment he was unable to determine her precise location. He admitted that overall, he usually preferred to work alone. As felt a surge of energy, he suspected that Lord Salamander was likely close by. In that instant, a black feather floated down. Recoiled in surprise, his body instinctively leaping away from the unexpected shock. He shoves the others down and urges them to lower their heads. Several attacks zipped through the air above their heads. Elias wanted to know what had just happened. Muttered his annoyance at how relentless their opponents seemed. At that moment, a creature with powerful wings and the legs of an eagle dove swiftly toward them. They insisted that today was their luckiest day ever. The group pursued the spirit squad, quickly spotting an ideal person to focus on. Ilias' anger flared the moment he realized Lares was standing there. This moment could be their final chance to put an end to all the chaos. Tension hung thick in the air as Emma and Ilias grew increasingly anxious, nerves evident on their faces. Emma took cover behind Ilias, keeping the children close to her, fixed with an intense, threatening glare. High overhead, the demon beamed down at them, wearing a triumphant smile as if he had just claimed a grand prize. Wondered aloud whether Ilias was familiar with that particular demon. The main character recalled having encountered the creature in the past and questioned its purpose for appearing now. Lares flashed a confident grin, claiming that he was pursuing the same goal as Ilias by searching for powerful spirits. The dragon in the distance pretended not to know where the salamander was hiding. Admits his uncertainty, while Lares wonders aloud about how much longer the dragon intends to pretend. Lares is aware that once joined forces with the salamander and unleashed remarkable legendary abilities. However, since the dragon remains silent, Lares is prepared to rely on his own clever strategies. Charged toward with determination, declaring his intention to eliminate him before he continued his search for the salamander. Ilias quickly moved between the demon and the dragon, using his own body as a shield to protect the dragon from the incoming attack. The main character shouted his determination to protect both and the salamander from the demon. He stood his ground, refusing to allow Lares to advance any further. The boy urgently called out to Emma, telling her to take and Lyric away from danger as quickly as possible. Turning to, he checked if the dragon was ready to battle, receiving a confident nod in response. The demon flew through the sky, his wings beating powerfully as he prepared to attack again. Meanwhile, Ilias recalled how, during their previous battle, he had failed to land even one blow. He had improved his skills since that time. The competition intensified as Ilias charged toward Lares, his sword slicing through the air. However, Lares quickly intercepted the attack, stopping Ilias' advance. The demon flashed a wide grin, clearly amused by how the boy had become more interesting to him. Despite using only one hand, he easily hurled Ilias down to the ground. Raced forward from the rear, rapidly closing the distance. The dragon released a torrent of flames, directing its scorching attack toward the demon. Unleashed a surge of fire that blasted a wide gap in the enemy's defenses, clearing a path for Ilias. Seizing the chance, the boy charged forward, sword in hand, ready to strike. Although Lares has his back turned, he quickly realizes what is happening. Just before the strike lands, he swiftly moves out of the way with expert agility. Ilias feels a surge of shock as the demon reacts with lightning-fast speed. Lares suddenly lunged toward the main character, preparing to strike. The technique required tremendous effort, and failure would leave him completely drained and defenseless. Ilias skillfully blocked each of Lares' attacks. Relying on just one attack wouldn't be enough against the demon's incredible speed. He understood he had to keep attacking relentlessly, making sure the enemy never found a chance to slip away. Ilias called forth the sword's demon spirit once more, preparing for another confrontation. With a surge of energy, he summoned several razor-sharp spears, directing them all at Lares in a powerful attack. The demon moved swiftly, weaving through the oncoming attacks with ease. He appeared genuinely surprised, admitting his admiration for the unexpected way that power was being utilized. Unleashed a torrent of shadowy flames, directing them straight at his opponent. Lares had anticipated that move ahead of time. Without warning, a sharp force tore through his wing. He appears to be seething with anger. A sharp gust, conjured by Emma, swept through the air. The elf urgently called out to Ilias, urging him to launch another attack. Responded by sending another surge of fire in Lares' direction. Meanwhile, the main character called forth the sword's demon spirit once again. Lares, seething with anger, warns those around him not to make the mistake of doubting his strength. Using the power of dark magic, he completely destroys the incoming assaults. The fire and magical blasts are shattered and dispersed before they can reach him. The demon touched down, clearly annoyed. Lares boasted that defeating each of them individually would be simple for him, but handling all three together posed more of a challenge. Deciding he needed help, he summoned, instructing her to eliminate Emma since he wanted her to prove her usefulness. Positioned herself directly in front of Emma, ready to act. Elias begins to panic as concern for his friend overwhelms him. Lares moves swiftly and suddenly stands behind the boy, reacts fast, stepping forward to shield the boy and strikes out at the demon. Lares observes that the dragon is blocking his path as well. A memory comes to him. There is an easy solution to the situation. The demon understands that heroes of justice are unable to overlook such problems. Gathering his strength, the demon rushes at the children with a fierce attack. Elias suddenly becomes overwhelmed with anxiety. And Lyric huddled close, each raising an arm in a desperate attempt to protect themselves. Moves quickly, placing himself between the attack and his companions to shield them. Let out a cry, his voice echoing with agony. Elias rushed over, his heart pounding with anxiety for the other person. He turned to Dryas and requested that she use her powers to restore the dragon's health. Lares suddenly appeared behind the boy, announcing that he had also managed to track down Dryas. The demon lashed out at Dryas and Elias, hurling both of them through the air with tremendous force. Emma's heart pounded with anxiety as pressed a weapon against her neck, signaling for her to remain silent. She cautioned Emma against making any sudden movements, reminding her that they stood on opposite sides. Overwhelmed by fear, the elf trembled amidst the unfolding chaos. Thick clouds of smoke billowed upward, obscuring the scene. Meanwhile, Lares observed from a distance, silently judging everyone involved as foolish. Elias, the dragon, and everyone involved were putting themselves in danger for the sake of others. Meanwhile, Lares complained about feeling bored. It was finally the moment to bring everything to a close once and for all. Elias struggled to stay conscious, knowing that if he blacked out, disaster would strike for everyone. A strange voice suddenly emerged, questioning whether he desired power. The main character hesitated for a moment, uncertain about the mysterious voice echoing around him, but urgency pushed him forward. Without delay, he seized the sword firmly in one hand, silently committing himself to whatever strength it had to offer. Instantly, the weapon in Elias' grasp erupted in fierce, untamed fire. The sight was so intense that even the demon appeared startled. A mysterious voice urges Elias to release his strength, and in that moment, he begins to suspect the true origin of the flames before him. Lares lunged toward his opponent with determination. At this point, everything was at stake. There was no turning back. Elias summoned the demon's spirit within his sword, preparing for another fierce confrontation. A swirling torrent of fire surged from him, hurtling straight toward the demon. Both attacks crashed into each other with force. Suddenly, a powerful blast shook the entire area, sending shockwaves through the surroundings. Lares stood in disbelief, stunned that his attempt had been completely blocked. Elias feels an intense surge of excitement about the situation. A voice from behind complimented his initial attempt, noting that it was quite impressive for a first effort. A ghostly presence lingered directly before him, sending a shiver down his spine. A surge of astonishment swept through the boy's thoughts. Lares could hardly contain her anger at the fact that Elias had managed to tame the salamander. The main character wondered aloud if the spirit before him was truly Lord Salamander, and if that spirit was responsible for granting him such power. However, the spirit brushed off the question, suggesting that there would be time to talk later. Meanwhile, the demon realized that Elias was a serious obstacle and became determined to eliminate the boy once and for all. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed as people hurriedly approached, their energy electrifying the night air. Elias startled as he realized the people before him were none other than the dragon guards. A guard demanded to know what gave Lares the courage to challenge those assigned to protect him. Lord Sal assured everyone that he and his group would take responsibility for dealing with the demon from that point forward. Lares complained loudly, feeling both bored and overwhelmed by the situation. Deciding he'd had enough, he contacted, signaling her to leave with him. As Lares tried to escape, Elias shouted after him, accusing him of running away. The demon, however, brushed off Elias' words, assuring him that they would cross paths again soon and hinting that their next encounter would be even more impressive. Confused by the demon's words, Elias tried to guess what he meant. Shifting his attention, Elias searched for the dragon and hurried over to Dryas, immediately asking about Sal's condition. Dryas reassured Elias that Sal was recovering well and no longer in danger. Still concerned, Elias inquired about Emma's well-being. Elias' expression showed clear confusion. The girl's expression is filled with concern. Elias notices her unease and inquires about the cause. Emma brings up the demoness called, expressing her suspicion and questioning whether Elias also sensed something strange about her. Despite Laurie's instructions to take care of them, she chose to hold back and kept herself out of the situation. At that instant, she possessed the power to defeat them all. She chose not to act, and perhaps there was an underlying reason behind her decision. Elias recalled the moment he believed he had seen her reaching out for assistance, and uncertainty nagged at him as he speculated about possible conflicts brewing among the demons. Elias recalled that Lares had promised they would cross paths once more, hinting that another confrontation was inevitable. When the possibility arises, the group considers approaching her for a conversation. Excitement fills Emma at the thought. Hovering in the air above them, the spirit inquires about's well-being. The spirit reveals himself as, drifting nearer, instructs Elias to drop the formal title since Elias played a part in rescuing. At that moment, Elias recalled how had once explained to him that, unlike the other spirits, had never been sealed away. He gives a silent nod, showing that he agrees. During the clash with the Demon King, the powerful spirits became trapped by a magical seal. A few had gotten away. The leftover demons searched for him, yet with support from and the Dragon Kingdom, he remained concealed all this time. Now Elias finally understands everything. He went on to clarify that their objective was to save the high-ranking spirits, and he wondered aloud if would be interested in joining forces with them. The spirit pauses for a moment to consider. Turning away, the character spoke. Elias usually preferred working alone, but couldn't help but notice the boy's remarkable effort during his initial try. The spirit saw promise in Elias, especially since the boy was determined to help his friends. Because of this, chose to form a contract with him. As soon as the agreement was made, a fresh mark appeared on Elias' hand and instructed him to attempt mastering his abilities. The main character felt a surge of excitement and expressed gratitude toward the spirit. Undine felt a surge of excitement as she reflected on Elias' actions, thinking they were truly impressive, especially since rarely showed that side of herself to others. A presence from behind catches the boy's focus. The knights expressed their apologies for the interruption and conveyed their gratitude to Elias for rescuing Prince and his companion. The group instructed Elias to accompany them to the palace, but he attempted to escape. At that moment, he understood the knight's words and realized that the boy he had just assisted was actually the prince. Inside the palace, the king turns to Elias, wanting to know if he is the one who rescued Lyric and his friend. King expressed his gratitude to Elias, speaking on behalf of everyone in the kingdom. The main character brushed off any gratitude, explaining that offering assistance came naturally to him. He remembered the time he had helped Emma, recalling how she had remarked that helping others must simply be in his nature. Complained about how and constantly let their curiosity get the better of them, leading them to wander off and create trouble. When he learned that they had been attacked by demons on this occasion, he was taken aback. Feeling relieved that Elias had stepped in to help, expressed his gratitude and told Elias he could request any reward he desired. The boy considers the different things he could desire. Elias explained that he had already formed a contract with, and that everyone was fine, so he felt completely at ease. Emma nodded in agreement, assuring that she was also doing well. Stood in awe as he welcomed Elias, deeply impressed that Elias had put his own safety on the line to protect the others. His admiration for only grew, yet withholding a reward seemed unjust, as if it would make him an unworthy king. Suddenly, appeared and addressed, expressing a desire to make a request. The spirit politely asked for permission to train in the Dragon's Gorge, a proposition that the king found immensely amusing. Elias couldn't make sense of what was happening, but promised to clear things up once they reached their destination. For the moment, he urged everyone to relax. The group settled in and took it easy within the castle's walls. When morning arrived, the team set out toward Dragon's Gorge. Elias noticed from across the room and lifted his hand to greet him with a friendly wave. The main character wanted to know if the dragon's wounds had healed completely. Expressed his gratitude, too, feeling completely recovered because of her help. Expressed his gratitude to Elias once more for safeguarding, and the rest of the team. However, the main character insisted that it was actually who deserved thanks, calling him a real hero. Curious, he then turned to and inquired about the nature of the training. Explained that few individuals were capable of managing advanced spirits as effortlessly as Elias, suggesting he possessed a rare innate talent. Elias grows noticeably bashful, while cautions him that continuing on this path could lead to complications for him. It had been clear that Lares hadn't put forth any real effort in the fight the day before. The fight only paused because the demon had been surprised, a mistake it was unlikely to repeat. Elias understood that their progress was possible only because of the help from and Emma, while pointed out that if Elias had to face Lares seriously with his current skills, he would have no hope of winning. Lares had a reputation for being a formidable force even among demons, yet placed unwavering trust in Elias' abilities. He believed that by teaming up with, they could work together to make the boys stronger, so he turned to for assistance. The training ahead would be challenging, and he needed to find out whether the boy was willing to take it on. The main character realizes that a future confrontation with Lares is unavoidable. At this moment, he found himself unable to keep anyone safe. Elias flashed a wide grin, expressing his desire to grow stronger as well, and let and know that he would be relying on their help. The training session began shortly afterward. The experience proved to be overwhelming. During this time, Elias trained himself to battle flames and discovered how to harness abilities. As a result, his strength grew, and he devoted himself fully to his training. A sharp-minded student observed Elias working diligently. Emma responded with an encouraging smile, feeling determined. She believed she couldn't remain unchanged and expressed her desire to grow stronger so she could support those around her. The spirits glanced at one another, silently communicating. Dryas seemed confident that Emma possessed the necessary qualities. Taking Emma by the hand, Dryas led her away, eager to reveal something important. Before anyone realized it, 10 days had swiftly passed since their training had begun. A knight rushed into the grand hall and dropped to one knee before King. Struggling to catch his breath, the knight waited as the king looked down and wondered aloud about the cause of the knight's frantic arrival and heavy breathing. He responds that he has some newly acquired information. The king's eyes grew large with surprise as he listened to the words spoken to him. He raised his voice, urgently demanding that someone contact Elias right away. Emma and Elias raced toward the royal hall at top speed, determined to reach their destination without delay. Expresses regret for having disturbed their practice session. The boy felt satisfied, believing their steady advancement was impressive. He wondered aloud about the need to hurry. The king stops briefly, taking a moment of silence. Pointed out that there appeared to be evidence of a large-scale demon movement within the empire, and this revelation stunned Elias. Reports spread quickly that vast numbers of demons were overrunning nearby regions, and many believed it would not be long before they reached the capital city. Elias questioned whether this was what Lares had referred to earlier when he promised to reveal something intriguing. Reveals that something else is troubling him. He explains that the invasion is occurring because the hero has joined forces with the demons. Elias is shocked and finds it hard to accept that has betrayed them. The main character looked at the king with disbelief, wondering aloud whether the situation was meant as a prank. Emma felt anxious, uncertain about how would respond. Elias rushed away, announcing his intention to go to the Empire, while Emma quickly followed close behind him. A voice calls out to them, revealing itself to be. He claims to have overheard their entire conversation and has arrived to offer them a ride. Elias and Emma felt a surge of excitement, eager to receive their friend's support. The group climbed onto the dragon's back, eager to begin their thrilling ride. The main character couldn't believe that had actually sided with the demons. At the same time, chaos erupted in the heart of the Empire as crowds desperately fled through the streets to escape danger. Monsters filled every corner, spreading disorder throughout the area. Observed everything unfold, remaining completely still and wordless like a statue. flew high above the city, announcing their arrival in the Empire, while Elias reacted with visible panic. The city appeared as if it had come straight out of a terrifying film, its eerie atmosphere unsettling to anyone who looked upon it. All around, chaos erupted as terrifying monsters pursued the people, turning the scene into utter disorder. The main character felt anxious, noticing the large number of monsters that had already arrived. Emma indicated a place where she wanted Elias to sit. The Adventurers Guild appeared before them, battered and in ruins. Aaron, the receptionist, pleaded desperately with the monsters, urging them to stay away. Despite her efforts to keep them at bay, the figures continued to inch nearer with every passing moment. A creature lifts its weapon into the air. Aaron squeezed her eyes shut, overwhelmed by fear. Yet moments before the creature could attack, an unbelievable event unfolded. Someone or something brought the monster crashing down. Elias glanced over to see if Aaron was all right. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at him, clearly startled by his presence. Elias flashed a wide smile in her direction. Although Aaron expressed his gratitude, his main concern was her safety. At that moment, their priority became uncovering the events that had unfolded in the capital. Aaron reveals that the blame lies entirely with. Elias stands in disbelief. The pair raced through the bustling city streets, battling fierce creatures that appeared in their path. The main characters are still trying to figure out what took place. Aaron shared information he had received from the guild, revealing that rumors were circulating about siding with the demons and causing destruction. Elias found himself questioning whether he had truly been responsible for that action. He explains that discovering the truth is something he must do. She turns to Aaron and inquires about his whereabouts. She believes he is likely relaxing somewhere downtown. Elias instructs to escort Aaron and as many townspeople as possible to a secure location. Nodded, assuring everyone that he would take care of the situation. At that moment, Emma called out to him, questioning why Elias continued to trust despite the harsh way he had treated him. The main character explained that the reason was their close friendship. Together, they embarked on various adventures. Elias refused to form an opinion about just because of what others whispered. Deep down, though, he couldn't shake the quiet fear that might truly have ties to the demons. All around the city, monsters overpowered the guards, defeating them one after another with little resistance. As the conflict reached its peak, Elias and Emma arrived on the scene. The elf observed the large number of monsters gathered in the area, while Elias explained that this was likely the front line of the battle. Suddenly, something draws his attention. He notices in the crowd and calls out to him, turns around, bewildered by Elias' unexpected presence. At this point, the main character decides that the reasons no longer matter. He insists that give an explanation and clarify the situation. A figure descended swiftly from the sky, announcing Elias' tardy arrival to the gathering. Lares announces that the show has already begun. When Elias caught sight of the demon, anger flared within him. Lares, observing Elias' reaction, wondered aloud if Elias truly didn't find the Empire's slow descent into disorder intriguing. Elias, still seething, questioned whether this chaos was what Lares had been so eager to talk about before. The demon nodded, attributing all the credit to. Elias then questioned about any involvement with Lares, but simply shook his head in denial. The hero believed that events were unfolding in a way they never should have. Since the moment he arrived, he stood out as the hero, surpassing all others in skill with both sword and magic. People referred to him as the Chosen One. Despite being hailed as a hero by everyone around him, he carried a constant sense of loneliness, knowing that people admired the image of a hero rather than his true self. Everything began to change when Elias approached and introduced himself too, declaring that from that moment forward, they would face life together as companions. The group was chosen to protect the kingdom and confront the Demon King. Elias grinned expressing his excitement about teaming up and facing the challenge side by side. For the first time, felt recognized not only as a hero but as a true friend. Afterward, he brought together his own squad, including Elias, Isabella, and Thomas. All signs pointed to things going well. Spending time with that group brought a lot of joy and left everyone feeling accomplished. For the very first time, he found himself confronting the demons directly, completely unprepared for what lay ahead. Several times throughout the conflict, defeat them. Others believed that someone lacking strength was considered worthless. He refused to acknowledge that his own abilities were the reason for those boundaries. Instead, he chose to blame his friends and made Ilias leave. Despite everything, the child continued doing their best to protect the team, which was a bit ironic. After being forced out, the individual began gathering intriguing rumors circulating through whispers and gossip. At the same time, became increasingly aware that his vulnerabilities were being revealed. Although he had once been the center of attention, now it seemed as if everyone was ignoring him. Held out as long as he could, but once everyone else had left and silence surrounded him, he finally gave in. In his quest for influence, he revealed crucial secrets about the royal capital. That moment marked the start of their troubles. When Thomas and Isabella learned what had happened, concern quickly took over. Lares remarked that the person they all looked up to was easily manipulated. Because of his actions, the demons discovered exactly when the city's defenses would be most vulnerable. The Demon King eagerly anticipated the downfall of the bothersome kingdom, crediting the oblivious hero for making it possible. Lares burst into laughter as Ilias' anger flared, watching the hero collapse to the floor in utter defeat. Suddenly, an unexpected strike hurtled toward Lares, forcing the demon to leap backward in shock, realizing he had narrowly escaped being struck. Ilias burst into the room, his voice raised as he demanded silence. He refuses to allow the demon to mock his friends. Emma appeared visibly anxious, her thoughts consumed by worries about Ilias. The boy approached, confidently declaring himself to be the hero. Although he carried that title, it weighed heavily on him, convincing him that he needed to face every challenge on his own. The moment arrived for him to raise his head and find out whether he was truly by himself. Despite his worries, Thomas and Isabella remained by his side, and even Ilias was still there, proving he was never alone. The main character called out too, urging him not to forget about his friends. Tears welled up in the hero's eyes, a testament to the unwavering loyalty that defined Ilias' character. Despite being thrown out, he continues to act like a loyal friend toward. This unwavering attitude is both the quality he admires and the source of his envy. Thought it was unfortunate to see them behaving like close friends after all that had happened. The demon commanded his creatures to make sure their enemies would not survive this time. Ilias stands poised, determination clear in his eyes as he prepares for a fight. Called out to the hero, prompting a confession. The hero revealed that it had always been Ilias, though he had avoided confronting that truth. He admits to himself that he never intended to distance Ilias, but now understands that facing this challenge on his own is no longer possible. Tears welled up in his eyes as he turned to Ilias, silently pleading for assistance. A menacing creature silently lifted its weapon, preparing to strike the hero from behind. The main character arrived at the last possible moment, rescuing him from danger. Ilias assures that he will always support. The boy grinned, reminding that they were a team. Was completely surprised by this declaration, yet beneath his astonishment, he felt a strong sense of gratitude toward the main character. Ilias instructed to his sword, wanting them to face the challenge side by side. Together, they possessed the strength needed to defeat Lares.